Napoli, Napoli, Napoli!
What's going on, my fellow Napoletani? Welcome back to Napoli Nation TV. We are on season 2, episode 4. For the first match of the season, Napoli played away at Sassuolo, and we managed to grab a 2-0 victory. So we have a lot of topics to talk about today, that being the formation, the offensive and defensive performances. We're going to talk a little bit about Kevin De Bruyne, and also we have 2 new segments. It's called the Sang of the Match and the Wayo of the match. The song of the match is basically someone who played the hardest, not necessarily the most talented player on the pitch. And then obviously the Wayo of the match would be our MVP per se. And also towards the end of the video, the last segment, we're going to talk about some Napoli news that regarding like the transfer market and also the upcoming UCL league phase draw. That's happening tomorrow, or I guess today for you guys when you're watching this, August 28th at 12 p.m. Eastern time. So we'll go over some of that and try to predict who we get, who we want, etc. So let's get right into it. All right, so Napoli went out and Sky Sport wasn't necessarily correct on the formation. They brought out a 4-1-4-1. It was actually, I'll bring it up on screen right now, a 4-2-3-1. So Debo, we'll start with you. These are the player ratings from FootMob or FotMob, however you say it. I know we're not going to agree necessarily on all these ratings. Some look okay, some don't. So tell me what you think from top to bottom.
You know what? I hear what you're saying about FootMob. Sometimes some of those ratings you're trying to figure out how they come up with that. But looking at this, I think they got it right on who is the lowest rated player for that game, because I think that the majority of us would agree that Luca did have some struggles in that game. I'm not gonna sit here and say that that worries me. I just think that he's a little bit apprehensive in how he's playing right now. He's just trying to maybe try a little bit too hard. You know, notice some of his touches was a little bit off. But he was playing hard, and that's what's most important. And the game will come to him if he just lets it come to him. The other player that I was somewhat disappointed in was Medit, just because he had that one fumble on that shot, and that could have ended up being a goal if somebody was there for the rebound. He really needs to not make mistakes like that. A top goalie like he is can't do that. So that was one thing that I was disappointed in from Manet. Overall, he was okay. It wasn't a terrible match. It's just that one moment could have really cost us a goal, and if Sassuolo actually scored, then the game could have turned out a little bit different. So I just need him to stay focused a little bit more. Concerning the other player ratings that they got on here, I don't see anything that I could be, you know, upset with. I think that Lobotka having a 7.2 there is probably a little bit low, especially after talking about Medet's performance being higher than him. And you look at the back line in general, they gave Di Lorenzo a 7.2. I'm trying to figure that one out, and Olivetta 7.3. Just when you're comparing it to how Medit has a 7.9. I mean, Medit didn't really have to do a whole lot. And when he did, he did make that one mistake that could have resulted in a goal. Everybody else, I think I don't have any complaints about anybody else, to be honest. I think everything else is okay. What about you, man?
So I'm going to also start out with Luca. I think a 6.9 is a bit too high for his rating. I'd probably look around at 6.5. Then again, I want to tell Napoli fans, calma, patience. It's his first match of the season. Obviously, he probably has some nerves. And I'm not necessarily saying he had a bad performance, but it wasn't great. You know what I mean? He was all over the field. He covered a whole bunch of space, which is admirable. But he was very sloppy. Honestly, people could say he could have had 2 yellows, maybe even 3. You know what I mean? So hopefully Conte talks to him about the foul trouble that he gets in. I wasn't aware that he gets in foul trouble like that. I didn't watch too much of his game at Udinese, but yeah, Merit as well. 7.9. It's a bit high. Sassuolo only had 2 shots on target. He didn't really get tested too much, but his shot blocking wasn't bad. He did have one block shot where it kind of looked like he had some butterfingers, but I was mostly disappointed in how much or how long he held the ball. You know,
Mm.
I mean, what's his name? Pinamonti. He could have had an easy goal tap in after his pass after he held the ball so long. And we know that Medits kind of has that flaw in his game. It makes me a little nervous seeing him hold it back there. And I'm not surprised that Medit started. Obviously he's won 2 Scudetti with us. He is the starting goalkeeper. But I truly believe if he keeps this up and he makes a little mistake, I think we might see VMS out there. Obviously, the formation that Sky released was a 4-1-4-1. They did have VMS starting, and I wasn't upset about that. Either goalkeeper I think is top tier, but I would prefer VMS. That's just my personal opinion. Obviously, both are great. In terms of Oliveira, I think his should be a bit higher. I think he had a very quiet, underrated match. I mean, did we see Berardi really do anything all match? No.
I don't remember anything.
He was completely shut down.
Yeah.
Rachmani, I think a 7.9 is fair. I'd probably go a little bit higher, maybe like a 8.1. He had a really solid match. He had a tough matchup against Lorente, right? That's the top the top goal scorer in Serie B from last season. Obviously, he came out to play. And also there was that one play where Luke actually did manage to get his yellow, is where he stopped him on the left side of the pitch towards our goal. That play almost worried me. I thought they were going to make something happen there, but luckily that was one foul I could agree with Luka making, and luckily it was his only yellow of the match. I think our midfield, I think they should all have 8s. Our midfield is so stout. The fact that Conte was able to incorporate all of our starters in the midfield is great. I have no complaints about this formation. Only thing I would say is I wish Neres came in just a tad bit earlier. I think the 75th minute is a little too late. I would have liked to see him at the 65th minute. We know that Politano is a workhorse, but I feel like he did his job very well on that right wing this match. Hopefully he keeps it up. We're not going to do no Politano hate today or any day. We're not doing that. That cross was nearly perfect. I mean, you can't really say it wasn't. It was right to McTominay's head for an easy header to the top right bin, and it was beautiful. It almost reminded you of the across from last season. De Bruyne with the 8.2. Yeah, I agree. People were calling his shot a bit lucky. I don't think it was luck. I mean, the all-time greats know what they're doing. You know what I mean? Like, it could have been an easy header for the goal if someone managed to get into the right position there. It barely missed. I forgot whose head, but it barely missed them. And De Bruyne perfectly placed it to the bottom right, where the goalie struggled to understand what the hell was going on. So yeah, also shout out to Juan Jesus. Another solid match. I think a 7.4 is definitely a good score. Hopefully we get to see Buongiorno out there a little bit sooner than later, just because he's a whole other level. But yeah, if Juan Jesus keeps this up, I have no complaints.
One of the things that I was noticing with De Bruyne is that there was moments where he was coming back to receive the ball from the back line, like he was helping out Lobotka with that. I noticed that a couple times, and then the next time they get the ball, he's like near the box. So it looks like he might be more given more freedom than pretty much anybody on the pitch from box to box. So it's nice to see that. And then you touched on Politano. Yeah, man. It's not about Politano hate at all. It's just about his limitations. If he can play anywhere near like he did when we had Garcia, remember, like, he was the only good player we had for a stint,
Yep.
right? I
Yep.
think you mentioned that on X the other day.
I did. Someone thought I was being sarcastic. I'm like, no. If you watched his season under Garcia, he was
Yeah,
debatably
yeah,
our best player. You know what I mean? It's
yeah.
crazy to say, but
I vividly remember that he was our best player
yeah.
for at least the 10-game stretch.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice to see that he's able to contribute, even if it's not scoring. If he's contributing with an assist, it's nice to see that. And he's still tracked back like he normally does. He was still playing, his defensive role. So, I agree though with Ned is it would have been nice if he came in a little bit earlier. But we got to wait and see how Conte's going to play that out. Lane came in, at the very end pretty much. Who else came in? The whoa. I
Vergara.
almost forgot Vegata came in and got some minutes, man. Even if it just was just a quick burn on his legs, the fact that he was in there, that was for me, that was awesome. So hopefully that is something that happens consistently, and then maybe he can actually get a little bit more time. That would be nice to see. But
Yeah,
yeah, I think you're spot on with everything that you mentioned across the board with all the players. I don't think anybody out there can say that we were massively disappointed in anybody's performance. It's Luca's first game. He's gonna take a minute to actually be the striker that we want him to be. Let's chill out a little bit with being so harsh on Luca. You know what I mean?
yeah. I'm also on the Vergara topic. I think he's going to be a freaking stud. But yeah, in terms of Luca, he easily could have had a goal on a rebound at one point. Also, Di Lorenzo, if he would have hit that cross just a little bit lower, we know that was
Mm.
going in. I mean, headers is his specialty. Luca is here for his size, and headers
Yeah,
are what
he's
he
right
does.
where he needed to be. I know
Yeah,
what play you're talking about. He was in the perfect position. So
yeah.
sometimes you got to look at the positives and not like focus on the negatives. But you did touch on his fouls. After
Sloppy.
watching the replay, he could have easily had a yellow card earlier in the game.
Mhm.
And I think that foul that wasn't given a yellow card might have really been the reason he got his yellow card at the beginning of the second half. So, yeah, we can't even let the yellow card accumulation be something that happens really, really quick. So, I'm sure Conte said a little something to him after the match about just being a little bit more careful with his fouls. So, we'll see
Yeah.
what happens.
Also, one last thing, McTominay on the left wing works so well. Obviously, he doesn't sit on the left side. He was able to kind of roam freely, just like De Bruyne did, and I feel like he can be a great asset in that position. I don't know what formation Conte will bring up next match, but I would have no issue if he stuck with this. I think it'll work out perfectly fine. So, for our next topic, we're going to talk about the offensive performance. So, let's get right into that. All right. So, the offensive performance. Overall, I feel like we did pretty well. Obviously, having Luca up there as our striker, we weren't expecting too much in his first game. Like we mentioned, he did play a little bit sloppy. He got into foul trouble, but overall, he made himself known. I feel like he was in some pretty good positions throughout the match. He was all over the pitch, which I love to see from a striker, especially of his size. Obviously, he doesn't have the best pace, but when you have people like De Bruyne behind you, he'll manage to find a nice little angle for you to knock a shot right in there. So, offensively, how do you think we performed?
I think we could have performed better, to be honest. It's only the first match, so I'm not going to try and say that I'm disappointed in how we performed, but I do think we have a lot of room for improvements. You touched on Luca right already. I think we probably talked about him enough when it comes to how he played in the game, but talking a little bit more about KDB and his adjustment to how our players play. And I think he's still trying to figure out where our players are going to be in position wise, how heavy his passes can be, how quick his passes can be, the angles on his passes. But I think that once he gets that down, our offense is going to be one of the best in the league. That's I don't think there's a debate when it comes to that, right? He just needs to stay healthy, um, and we're gonna be fine. I do think that the next game, first game at home, I'm expecting to see the offensive be a little bit more fluid. People understanding where they're gonna be at any given time. I'm expecting that's gonna happen. Um, and then the last thing I wanted to touch on was McFratima. So Fatima, he left off where he did in that last match and the stretch of matches from last year. He was all over the pitch. He was always a threat. He was using his size, and that goal that he hit off the crossbar, the first time shot and the angle and the trajectory and the power that it took, he deserved a goal on that shot. It just didn't go in. So, from an offensive performance standpoint, that dude was on point. Everybody else in general, mm, you know what I mean? Politano, I think, was, he gave us what we could expect in a good game from him too. We can't expect a whole lot from him. And he did have that moment where he was in the box and he was in the position he needed to be. And the defender just came in and got a deflection. I think that shot would have went in if that defender wasn't there. So overall, not disappointed, but we can do better.
Agreed. We could definitely do a little bit better. As with any match, we never play a perfect match, anyways. I would like to see Kevin De Bruyne get more shots on goal. Obviously he could have had an assist and a goal this match. He did have a goal on that free kick, but I didn't see too many shots from him. Obviously, he was playing more of a, playmaking position that game, which is totally fine. That's what we have Luca for up top. But yeah, I mean, make Fatima MVP form expected. He came out with a bang. He could have had 2 goals, maybe even 3. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, I have no complaints about the offense performance. We obviously could have done better. It's the first match of the season. We're playing away against a Serie B champ who's always a tough crowd against giants. Yes, we are giants now. So yeah, I mean, I'd rate it maybe a 7 out of 10. Obviously if we push the 8 level, I expect, more shots on goal. We only had 4 shots on target. Sassuolo did have 2. So in terms of Sassuolo getting shots on target, let's go ahead and get into the defensive performance. Okay, so we got a clean sheet. The job is done. Defense did well. We limited long shots because I know Medit, that's one of his flaws is long shots. He's not the best at blocking those. I don't know if you remember that one Lazio goal when we played at home. Forgot what his name is, but he always manages to be a beast against us. He is a beast, but yeah, Medit is not the best at long shots. So we definitely held that down. Sassuolo, like I said, only had 2 shots on target. Also, this is both offense and defense, I guess. We held 63% possession, which is good. Possession is very important with our play style. And yeah, I would say the best defensive player on the pitch was Oliveira. I mean, he held Berardi to literally, he was just locked down. Oliveira's match didn't get talked about enough. I feel like Rachmani, as usual, doesn't get enough praise. He played solid. Di Lorenzo had an okay game. Juan Jesus, it's what we expect with Juan Jesus. He's not going to be the top player, but he did his job. So, I mean, yeah, we got a clean sheet. I can't complain about our defense. We limited shots. Yeah, no really crazy counters that ended up being close to goal. I mean, the closest they really got to goal wasn't in Medit had the butterfingers or also whenever Luca fouled Lorente. Other than that, they weren't too much of a threat.
Yeah, I completely agree. I never felt nervous at all in the match at any given time. If there was ever a moment where I was like, "Oh, what's gonna happen?" It was when Merritt fumbled that ball, man. When Merritt just
Or
didn't
when he
grab.
held it too long and Pinamonti almost hit it in. That
Yeah,
was worrisome too.
pointed that out. Yeah. For sure, he actually got a touch on that ball,
Hmm.
if I remember right. Right.
Yeah, it went out of bounds for a throw in.
Yeah. So I mean, if you were to say anything negative, the only thing to say is unfortunately it's for Merritt. You touched on VMS earlier, and the competition's there, bro. You got to stay focused. There's a very good chance that VMS starts in this next game. I think maybe Conte is maybe gonna try to like flip flop them a little bit for a couple matches or so to see who actually performs better, and then maybe stick with the starter that is performing the best once he figures that out. But we'll see. Um, yeah, I can't come back and say anything much different about what you said about the defense overall.
Cool. So what would you rate our defensive performance, 1 through 10.
The fact that Sassuolo wasn't threatening, they didn't have many shots on goal, and we can't really say that anybody played bad. I would probably say about an 8, maybe 7.5 to 8, somewhere in that range. I think our defense did their job a little bit better than the offense did. I know you said 7 to 10 for the offense, so just because you said that, I'll give the defense a little bit more and say 7.5.
Sure. Yeah, I would go with an 8. We got a clean sheet. They did their job. Wasn't a spectacular job just necessarily because Sassuolo didn't really do too much. But yeah, we did our job. So we have a next segment called Eyes on King Kevin. You guys are very familiar with Kevin De Bruyne. So let's get right into that. KDB, our biggest signing in the ADL era. We got to have a segment on every video just because
absolutely, bro. Yep.
He's that guy, you know. So how do you think he performed? What could he have worked on, etc.?
Like I touched on a little bit earlier when we were talking about him a little bit, it's just his chemistry with everybody, and that's going to come with time. You talked about his his free kick that he had, and exactly right. He put the ball where it needed to be, and the ball ended up going in the net only because the goalie didn't really understand what he needed to do there. Because if somebody got on the end of that ball, that goalie needed to be ready to block the shot. And when he was too late when he saw that nobody was getting on the end of the ball, and it just went in. You know what I mean? So it's a goal. It's counted as a goal. He put the ball where it needed to be. So that in itself was good from him. You know what I mean? The one thing that I always want to try to really, really hone in on him with him is his fitness. Like, does he look like he's getting tired? Does he look like his legs are getting heavy and he's making bad passes because of it? I did not notice that. And I think that has something to do with the fact that Conte played him 90 minutes, a full 90 minutes, at least the last 2 games of the preseason. And it's obvious that he's in better shape than he was, way better shape than he was when he first showed up to training camp. So, overall, satisfied, but looking for much bigger things from him from here on out. Even that first game at home, I want to see something special from him. I don't think we saw anything special, and we need that from him. We need his creativity, and we need his quality as one of the best midfielders in the history of the game to come out sooner than later.
Sure, yeah. So I disagree with his fitness. I don't think he's even 100% fully fit yet. I feel like he still has to mesh in, get used to the heat out in Italy. Obviously, playing in a whole new formation and tactic. Yeah, he still has lots of time. It's the first match of the season. As I said, I would have liked to see him take more shots. You know, he only had a couple. One flew into the crowd. But I wouldn't say he didn't do anything special. I mean, he just hit a crazy free kick goal. You know what I mean? And then also that pass to Rahmani was pure class. Rahmani should have easily scored that. If it was anybody else in that position, I feel like it would have been a goal. You know what I mean?
One in the box. I remember that now.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Easy. Yeah, that was special to me. Obviously, I'm not when I say special, I don't really mean like fancy, you know, like something fan. Obviously, we know he has a nice little touch on the ball. But yeah, I think he did some special things. Obviously he wasn't an A+ KDB, but I'd say he was a B KDB. You know what I mean? So in terms of him playing in that position, I feel like it fits him well. Obviously, at times he almost thought he was playing for his old team. He was trying to do some like tiki taka things, you know, quick one-touch passes. Conte doesn't do that. You know what I mean? He's more about holding the ball, creating things, not necessarily in a rapid manner unless it's like on a counter. But yeah, I feel like he has to get used to that. and he has great ball control. So I don't think he has an issue with that. He needs to get into the mentality of playing for Conte now. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, there was a
yeah,
talking about like his touch on the ball and everything. There were a couple moments too where his like just his experience came out in the middle of the field, and like maybe one of the Sassuolo players was going to be able to get on the ball, and he just made one little hesitation movement and he was able to not lose the ball. So it was obvious that his experience was there. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But
You
yeah,
could see he was a little rusty. I don't know if you remembered the one pass he had a turnover on in our backfield where Sassuolo almost were able to counter. But I think that was his only big mistake. Other than that, he played solid. Like I said, he's not in his prime anymore. We're not expecting anything too crazy, but he is KDB and he will make a huge impact for us further on. So I expect next match he'll get more into the flow of things, probably take some more shots. He's playing at home. He wants to put on a little show, maybe. I don't know. Who knows?
sellout
But
crowd, man.
yeah, for the 10th straight match, I feel
Yeah.
like that'll happen all season if we could keep performing this way. So let's get into the next segment. It is called Song of the Match. Basically, if you didn't catch the beginning part, it's the player who played the hardest, not necessarily the best. And I think you guys have a good idea of who that'll be. Okay, so let's get into the Song of the Match. Not necessarily the best player, but the guy who shed the most blood, had the most grit and hustle. And I feel like you'll see his name on here quite often. And I'll go ahead and start it off. I feel like it was easily Matteo Politano. You could also make an argument for Oliveira just because of the shutdown match that he had on Berardi. He was all over the pitch as well, and not necessarily all over the pitch, but on the defensive end. But yeah, I mean, this goes to Matteo Politano. He had a beautiful cross for an assist. He didn't take too many crazy shots, but he's our wingback. He plays great defense and manages to always get his crazy ass down the field and do his thing. You know what I
That's
mean?
crazy. That's
He's
funny.
just he's always running. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's easily for me the guy who shed the most blood, had the most hustle, etc. What about you?
You know, I have to go with Rachmani, man. I think Rachmani had a very solid match, and he put himself in his position. He put himself in positions in attack that we don't normally see him in. But we know he can get there. It's just not something normal. And I felt like he was trying to make an impact on that side of the pitch. So I like to see that. And the impact that he was making, it wasn't like he was falling back in defense and not providing what he needed to in his defensive position. You know what I mean? So if I had to pick a player that had the most grit, was playing hard the whole game and didn't seem flustered at all, I'd have to pick Rachmani.
Yeah, we know he usually struggles against people that have pace, and I feel like he did an excellent job against Lorente. God, I can't say his damn name. It's crazy. But
Loriente. Loriente.
Loriente. So I'm saying Lorente, like it's the old striker that we used to have. You remember him?
Yeah, it's Loriente.
Loriente. Okay. Well,
Got
I'm
an
pretty
I
sure.
in
Okay,
there.
yeah. I'm pretty sure that they're grasping what I'm talking about. But yeah. So that is the song of the match. Now let's get into the MVP, aka the Guayo of the match.
Mario.
This is pretty easy. I feel like, kind of just shrug. um, there's no debate who is the MVP of the match. I'll let you get into this topic more, so just because I talked a little bit on the previous one, but it's
Right.
McTominay. All over the pitch, played his position excellent. Could
Mhm,
have easily had 3 goals. He hit the crossbar on one of them. Yeah,
mhm.
it's McFratama easily.
Yeah, like, there's no debate about that. I know he got man of the match with Serie A too, and
Yeah.
how can you not say that he was, the best player on the pitch? I don't even remember him making a real mistake, like, not one time in the match. That shot on goal that hit the crossbar was more impressive than his perfectly angled header off
Yeah.
that Politano cross. He was all over the pitch. I know he covered a lot of distance. I haven't really seen what the stats are on that, but it was obvious that he did cover a lot of distance. And he was super hyper focused. I mean, there's nothing. that you can say other than it was an MVP type performance.
For sure. Plenty of those to come in the upcoming rounds too. So
Yeah.
hopefully he even returns to being the MVP of Serie A again, and maybe another Scudetto.
Back-to-back Serie A and Scudetti, man.
Ooh, that would be
Yeah,
crazy.
man.
That would be
Ooh,
crazy.
boy, and if we made some noise in the Champions League, that
Ooh.
might put him in serious Ballon d'Or discussion too. Like
Yeah, we'll get into
back
Champions
to
League
back.
for the
Yeah.
last topic. Yeah. But yeah, so McTominay, easily the MVP, the way of the match. So let's carry on to some Napoli news in regards to the transfer market and the UCL. Okay, so first up on the Napoli news, we're going to talk about the transfer market. We are expecting 2 pretty good names coming up. Did you want to go ahead and talk about them, Bebo?
Yeah, man. So I think we're just a step away from here we go on Hoyland and on our boy Elmas, aka the Joker. Um, so looking forward to both of them players, to be honest. I can't lie. When I heard the first news about Hoyland at the very beginning, I was a little bit, I wonder about this one. But I think that Conte is going to get the best out of him. I think that he's going to be an impact player similar to what he was with Atalanta. We can't deny that he performed well with Atalanta in the league that he's coming back to. But bro, seeing the Joker back on the pitch, man, I can't wait for that. I wish we could get that dude signed and in the locker room and on that pitch against Coyote, but it's probably just a little bit too close. I did see something about Hoyland. They're trying to get everything done so that he's on the bench. I'm hoping they're doing the same with the Joker, man, because I would really love to see the crowd reaction. First game at home with our boy back on the pitch. There's been a few other names. I think that I was hoping that Juan Luis Sanchez was actually going to still happen, but I'm not comfortable that it's going to anymore. It's just we haven't heard enough about it lately, and I just don't think we're going to get that guy. There's been
Me
a
neither.
couple other names that have been thrown out there. I'm not even going to try to remember them right now because I just don't think they're serious. So we might end up with just these two players to close out the transfer market. Uh, we'll see how that works out, especially with not being able to get Juan Luis Sanchez. I think that makes Mazzocchi staying on the team
Yep.
and being the official backup for D'Lo. Hopefully that won't cause any issues. I know that Mazzocchi is not a high quality type of player, but the one thing you can't deny with that dude is
Napoletano. It's
you
got
can't
heart.
deny his heart. You can't deny his heart, man. And there were moments last year when you're like, oh, okay, maybe he can do a little something, but it was like 2 or 3 moments.
Yep.
So hopefully, hopefully he can just perform a little bit better and it's not just all hustle. So, yeah, uh, it would be nice to see Elmas on that pitch on Saturday though, or at least sitting on the bench. He's
Yeah.
not going to get the game, but if he's on the bench, that's good enough for me.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned with Di Lorenzo necessarily needing a backup just because we know his history. I mean, he's played the most minutes for us. Sorry. Um, he rarely gets injured. Of course, if he does, that's the captain. You know, he's a great right back. It is concerning, but and anything can happen. Obviously, I'm not going to jinx that, but I would have liked to have. I'm not going to say his name because it's not happening, so we're just going to move on from that. But Mazzocchi should be okay. You know, maybe to start if Di Lorenzo does get tired legs, which again doesn't happen often. He's always on that pitch. Obviously, I can see someone like Mazzocchi starting in the Coppa Italia matches, something that we're not too fond of or care too much about. If it happens, it happens. I can't complain. But yeah, I was looking up some Hoyland highlights, not the Man U one because he really doesn't have any. But man, he was a stud for Atalanta. I mean, he's coming back to a league that he's familiar with.
Yeah.
Obviously, Conte has the ability to get the best out of our players. You know, I mean, look at, for example, Juan Jesus. This guy was a complete bum. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh
people,
no, he wasn't a complete bum. I wouldn't say
in my eyes, he was not the player he is today, which is
no,
a solid
no.
player. Below a
Yeah, that's
solid player is a below average bum. So Yeah,
Oh, damn
he's
it.
solid now. He's solid.
Well, so
And I,
that
and
he
I,
had
and I,
something to do with
I respect Jesus. He's a great human being, and
yeah.
he's been a great player for Roma and Inter, obviously. But he's hit a certain age where you can only do so much, and just to see what he does on the field for us these days, it's admirable. So I respect it.
He's a great
I
locker
don't
room
take it
guy too.
personal. Exactly. That's why I actually wanted to keep him this season was for his locker room presence. But obviously,
You
he
know
doesn't
what?
struggle on the field too much.
Something else I just thought of with talking about, D'Lo's backup and everything. We got Bugema. I think I'm saying his name right.
Bugema.
Bukama. So we got Bukama, and if Di Lorenzo needs a rest, Conte knows how to put a back three
Yep.
on the back line,
Yeah.
and we have three very good center backs.
Yeah.
So maybe that's going to happen sooner than we think. Just to give D'Lo a rest. Maybe Conte is going to try it out just to see how that goes. Um, I mean, we got another guy, Buongiorno. He's going to be back soon, so maybe we'll be okay. Maybe it won't be something that we should be hugely concerned about because of Bokema. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I didn't even get into Elmas. I mean, I've already talked to him plenty on X on my old account before I got permabanned by Mr. Elon himself. It wasn't even for anything crazy. It was for freaking posting videos that I just recorded and then posted on my page. Anyways, we're not going to get into that. But having someone who can play in the midfield position and quite possibly the striker position, I mean, we might really have 3 strikers now after we pick up Hoyland as well.
You don't mean like striker. You mean like a
No,
winger.
no, like a
Yeah.
winger who can
Yeah.
push himself up top to become a striker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's the Joker for a reason. You can play him
Yep.
almost anywhere, except for defense, obviously,
Mhm.
but you can play him almost anywhere.
Yeah.
It's very exciting. And he's still that guy. He did fairly well for Torino. We know how Torino is kind of shitty, but he played fairly well for him. And I'm really excited to see how Conte is gonna implement him into our formations and when if he'll ever start him, maybe depending on who we're playing. But
Mhm.
I definitely see him being a super sub. Kind of like almost when we
You know
had Zielinski stepping off the pitch from the starting position and kind of gradually getting into that
Mhm.
sub uh,
Yeah.
uh, position. So having the Joker,
Yeah.
big things up ahead. This is the first time in the ADL era where we see a
Yeah.
player come back to Napoli. I mean, I
One
expect great things. Yeah.
Yeah. One more thing though about the transfer market, and I know that at some point we were, you know, pushing to try to get, I think it's Musa from Milan.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw Bresciani's name put out there, and I don't think that was too serious, but I think both of those players, though, both of those players were a player that could be put into the role to back up Zombo. And Zombo's going to
Mm,
Africon for a couple months here this year, so not having like an actual backup for Zombo, that might be something that could concern us. Maybe we try to snatch somebody up in January. I think we did that with Billing last year, right? We got
mhm.
Billing to help
On
out with
loan.
that. Um,
Yep.
so that might be something that is a concern that we have to go find somebody in January. I'm gonna be honest with you though. Do you know the player Colisacco? He's a young player. I think he was on Primavera for a year or two. He's been loaned out to a couple teams. He's really, really
The
tall.
big old dude, right? He played in the preseason.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so I
Mhm.
think he's still on our roster. And
Really.
I'm not saying that he could be the guy, but it wouldn't blow my mind if he ends up being put on the first team roster just because he is a midfielder. He is big.
It's got size. Yeah.
He has played a lot of training pitch minutes with the first team players. So maybe Conte's looking at him as being something there. I don't know, but yeah, that could be a concern.
Do you know
Come
if
Jan.
we've signed Zombo on that extension until 2028, or is it just in talks right now?
Ooh, I haven't seen. I haven't seen if it's official or not. I think Politano's is though.
Yeah, yeah.
Politano's
I saw
is.
Politanos. Yep.
Yep,
I'm
yep.
just wondering if Zombo ever signed that extension until 2028
I
because I
don't
feel
know.
like that's not a topic we're really paying attention to too much. If this is his last
Yeah.
season here, it's going to be really hard to find a replacement like Zombo. Like you mentioned, you and Dom both mentioned on the Tutto Calcio podcast. Make sure you guys go
Mm,
check them out. Awesome podcast. You mentioned that Zombo is one of the most underrated, underappreciated players in terms of like Europe talk.
Yeah.
And I don't know who we can pick up in the transfer market that plays his type of game. You know, he's a huge defender who has pace. He dribbles the ball fairly well for his size. He plays great
Covers a lot
defense.
of ground.
Yeah.
He
And
gets in the box.
yeah, and
I
he can
mean,
shoot the
yeah,
ball too. He's not bad at it. We
yeah,
saw he had that beautiful shot last season outside of the box. I
yeah.
forgot who we played, but we know that he's a very important piece to our team,
Yeah, and
especially
like
given
you,
our formation that we're
yeah,
using. You know,
yep,
so I feel like that's
yep,
somebody we definitely need to replace, or not replace,
yeah.
but whenever his time is done here, we need to get someone else.
Yeah, and you're absolutely spot on with him being underrated and on the European stage. Everybody
Yep.
knows in Italy how important he is and how good he is for our league, but you just don't hear his name brought up when people are talking about some of the best midfielders in Europe, and I don't think it's debatable. So it not being brought up is a little surprising. Like if you have somebody like Dumfries from Inter being on the Ballon d'Or list, why ain't Zombo? You know what I mean? So I mean, Dumfries is a good player, but last year he was all right. You know what I mean?
He was
So
good. He was good.
yeah,
I wouldn't say Ballon d'Or good, but he was good.
I mean, to be on the list, you got to be more than good, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think Zombo, if you look at the statistics and the impact that Zombo had on our Scudetto last year, it's comparable with the first Scudetto. I think he had more goals even than the first Scudetto,
Yep.
so yeah.
Yeah. Last season he had the most goals he's ever had in one season for Napoli. So all right, so that'll do it for the transfer market. Let's get into the beautiful UCL. We are back. Now we're not familiar with how this pot is set up. It's completely different to what we were in 2 years ago. So tell me, what do you think about the pot, how it works, who we might get in our big ass group thing that's gonna happen in a little playoff bracket kind of thing. And yeah, just tell me what you think.
You're asking me like you think I know something about it.
Yeah,
All I dude,
forgive us.
all
I
I
guess
know
we're brand new to this now. Missing it last season.
I mean, last year was the first time that there's this new league phase where, there's a big old draw at the beginning and everybody plays like I think it's 8 matches or something and it's a point system at the beginning, right? So
Mhm.
if you get high up in the table, then I think you get like a
It's the
pass
top
in the
eight,
group stage.
top
Like
eight
you don't have to
teams.
play in the first round or something.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, with the draw still, I think the way it works out is we can still play against some giants,
Mm,
but we're also going to have a really good chance to play against other teams that we should be very, very comfortable with beating and getting all 3 points. So
sure.
I think it's cool, man, having the point system and being able to
Get some
it puts
rest.
Napoli in a it puts Napoli in a position where it's realistic for us to get a bye when the group stages start and we don't have to play again right away
Yeah.
when some of the other teams do.
We're back. Hopefully we make some noise and get that top eight
Oh,
position to
we're
get
gonna make noise.
that rest.
We're
I
gonna
hope
make
so.
noise.
I hope so. It's a completely
Yeah.
different beast playing in the UCL. Some teams are dog shit in their
We've
domestic league and then
always
great
been
in the UCL or vice versa. So
but we've always been
hmm
competitive.
yep,
Even
I'm
even
yep.
back in the day when we first got into it, our crowd, especially
Hmm.
at home, it don't matter who's coming into the Maradona in the UCL. We are competitive. I can't remember any game at home in the UCL where we just got completely manhandled. I don't remember any. On the road, a different story, right? But at
I'll never
home,
forget us beating
held
Chelsea
our own at
3-1 at
home.
home and then losing over there 4-1. And that's the same time where they won the UCL. Man, we
Yeah,
had a
man.
good chance that season.
Yeah. I'm
Uh,
excited about the UCL and Mama's going home for a month and she's gonna be able to go see a UCL match.
lucky her.
So yeah, you ain't lying. Can't lie. I'm a little bit jealous, but at least
Yeah, me
one of
too.
us is gonna be there to watch. So
It's been a while since I've been to a UCL match. We've only gone for the 2023 Scudetto. And other than that, I mean, it's been that long for me since I've even visited. This year in September, or not this year, sorry, next year in September, I'll definitely be down there. I have another baby on the way. So I have to wait a little bit longer now. Hopefully, we end up winning the Scudetto this season, and I'll be bringing my ass to New York to celebrate this time.
You're
So
gonna have to put me in a 6 feet under hole and make me stay there. If we're in that position, I'm doing everything I can to come and celebrate a repeat, man. That's a
go to
It might
Napoli.
not happen. Oh yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
I would love to. It's just the new baby being born in around March, April. I can't leave my wife behind.
wait a
Sorry,
minute.
Napoli.
Hold on. Hold on. When's the baby due again?
March, April, around that
March,
time.
April timeframe?
Yeah, it'll be
Well,
too
I ain't
soon.
going without you. So I take
That's what I
that
was
back.
saying. That's what I was saying. I didn't
I
think you
thought
would,
you were
you know.
trying to say I thought you were saying you were thinking about going now.
No, I can't.
Well,
I
it's gonna have
can't.
to wait until September then. So
You
yeah.
know. Babies, what are you gonna do? All right, guys, that'll do it for season 2, episode 4 of Napoli Nation TV. We'll be releasing another video sometime this week for the match review against who are we playing?
We are playing Coyote.
Yes, we are back at home at the Stadio Diego Armando Maradona. Coyotes, Napoli players all got their fumes out last match, so hopefully we don't see one of those games where ex Napoli players are super stout. You know, both what's his name, Luperto and Gaetano.
Yeah,
Gaetano
yeah, guy.
crossed it in. Luperto headed it in. So they got all their ex Napoli flames out. You know, hopefully Caprile, right? He's a stud. I wish we would have kept him. Hopefully he doesn't become like Buffon. I wouldn't be surprised if he does. But yeah, I mean,
You're saying if he comes out like Buffon
yes,
against us, like we have to deal
yes,
with
I
all
would
the time.
not be
Yeah.
surprised. I would
Dude,
not
he's
be
a good goalie
surprised.
though, man. I'm confident that match. We'll get into that when we
Yeah,
preview the match, but
yeah, we'll wait for
I'm
that.
very confident in that match.
Yeah, I expect offensively we'll perform better. Anyways, we're not gonna talk about the match right now. This is the end of the video. I would love to talk about it, but we'll save that for another day.
Let,
So I hope you
let
guys
me
enjoyed. Yes,
Hey, Marty, let me say one more thing.
go for it.
So if I'm sure y'all noticed the beautiful intro video that we had for this episode for the first time, and I just want to put a shout out for Steph Jofi. Beautiful video, my man. I appreciate it, and go follow him on Instagram. His handle will be at the end of this video. You can see it on the bottom right hand side. And then the last thing I want to say is your brother, my son, Justin, has been doing beats for us. So the beats that you hear during the transition, the music that you're going to hear at the end, that's my younger son's work. So follow him on Instagram too. And
He does a pretty good
he's
job.
got really good at making them beats. So I just
Yep.
wanted to mention that too.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, like last shout out. Thank you, Steph. Your graphics are amazing. He also made this banner that you see down there for us, little background.
For the
He also
templates, yep.
made the transition. All I do is add a little text on the bottom for every transition that we do, but he did the whole graphic for it. He's a beast. He's came in clutch for us quite a few times. He's doing so again this season for Napoli Nation TV. So thank you, Steph, and thank you, Justin, for the amazing beats. Make sure you guys go check them out on YouTube and Instagram. Their links are always at the end of the video in the bottom right section. So check them out. And once again, thank you for watching Napoli Nation TV. And what do we say?
Forza.
Napoli.
Sempre.
Sempre. Forza.